100 million yen, my father said, sliding the check across his mahogany desk. That's what it cost to raise you for 23 years. Pay it back, and we'll forget about your embarrassing little art career. I stared at the man who'd once been Tokyo's most renowned neurosurgeon, taking in his expensive suit, now slightly wrinkled, and the dark circles under his eyes that his designer glasses couldn't quite hide. The office still looked the same, medical degrees covering the walls, family photos arranged perfectly, all featuring my perfect sister May, and that familiar scent of leather and superiority. Interesting timing, father, I said, keeping my voice steady as I pulled out my tablet. Would you like to see what I'm working on now? He waved his hand dismissively. Your little drawings don't interest me, Yuki. What interests me is... I turned the tablet around, showing him the homepage of his own medical center, or rather, what was left of it. His face paled as he read the headline. Prestigious Nakamura Medical Center faces multiple malpractice suits. How did you know about the lawsuits, or about May's gambling debts that you've been covering up? I smiled, channeling the same cold expression he'd worn 5 years ago when he'd thrown me out for choosing art school over medical school. It's amazing what people will tell an artist when they're commissioning work, especially when that artist designs games for the very gambling apps your precious daughter is addicted to. My name is Yuki Nakamura, and 5 years ago, my family disowned me for daring to dream of becoming an artist instead of following the family tradition of medicine. What they didn't know was that their rejection would set me free to become something they never imagined, one of Japan's most successful digital artists, and the architect of their perfect world's destruction. But let me start from the beginning. 5 years earlier. Failure. The word echoed through our family dining room as my father slammed down my art school acceptance letter. You want to throw away generations of medical excellence to draw cartoons? I sat perfectly still, 23 years of conditioning keeping my spine straight despite the trembling in my hands. Around a traditional chabude table, my mother kept her eyes down, arranging her chopsticks with precise movements. May, my older sister and already a rising star in neurology residency, watched with barely concealed satisfaction. Father, please, I started, but he cut me off with a sharp gesture. No, I've indulged your little hobby long enough. Tomorrow you will decline this nonsense and accept your place at Tokyo Medical University, where you belong. I won't. The words came out barely above a whisper, but they might as well have been a shout for the way he shattered the careful facade of family harmony. What did you say? His voice dropped dangerously low. I lifted my chin, meeting his gaze directly for perhaps the first time in my life. I said I won't. I've already accepted the art school offer. The silence that followed was deafening. Then May spoke, her voice dripping with false concern. Father, clearly Yukai is going through some sort of rebellion. Perhaps if we... Be quiet, he snapped, not taking his eyes off me. You did this without my permission. I'm 23 years old. I don't need your permission. His laugh was cold. No? And how do you plan to pay for this foolishness? With the money you don't have? The apartment you can't afford? The connections you've never made because you've been too busy drawing instead of networking with proper people? Each question was a carefully aimed arrow, hitting all my insecurities. But I prepared for this. I have a scholarship, and I've been saving money from my commissions. Commissions? My mother finally spoke, her voice horrified. You've been selling your drawings? Yes, I said, pulling out my phone to show them my online portfolio. I have over 50,000 followers. Companies are already. My father's hand slammed down on the table again, making the dishes rattle. Enough. This ends now. You will accept the medical school placement or you will leave this house with nothing. No support, no connections, no family name to open doors for you. Choose. I looked around the table, at my father's rigid anger, my mother's averted gaze, May's smug smile. This moment had been coming for years, ever since I first realized that the careful lines I drew brought me more joy than any medical textbook ever could. I choose art. The words hung in the air like smoke after a fire, changing everything they touched. Then you are no longer my daughter. He stood, straightening his suit jacket with precise movements. You have 1 hour to pack your things and leave. After that, you are a stranger to this family. May's satisfaction bloomed into full triumph. Father, shall I help her pack? We wouldn't want her to take anything she hasn't earned. I didn't wait for his response. I walked to my room, soon to be my former room, with steady steps, despite the earthquake happening inside me. I prepared for this too. My important documents were already safely stored in a cloud account they couldn't access. My savings were in a separate bank account, and my digital portfolio, the real key to my future, couldn't be taken away. As I packed my clothes and essential supplies, Mai appeared in the doorway. I always knew you'd fail us eventually, she said, leaning against the frame with casual cruelty. But choosing to become a street artist, that's low even for you. I continued packing, not giving her the satisfaction of a response. Your father will make sure no respectable gallery in Tokyo will touch you, right? His influence. His influence is exactly why I'm choosing digital art and games, May, I finally said, zipping up my backpack. The internet doesn't care about family names. She laughed. Oh, you think you're so clever. But you'll come crawling back within a month. And when you do, remember this moment. Remember that you chose this. I shouldered my bag and turned to face her one last time. No, May. You all chose this. I'm just finally choosing myself. My Aunt Kiko was waiting in her car around the corner, just as we'd planned. Unlike the rest of the family, she'd always supported my art, secretly buying me supplies and encouraging my dreams. As a successful business owner herself, she understood the value of following one's own path. Are you sure about this? She asked as we drove away from the house I'd grown up in. Your father's influence in Tokyo is considerable. I'm sure, I said, watching my childhood home disappear in a side mirror. Besides, I have a plan. And I did. While my family thought I'd been wasting time diddling, I've been building a network of contacts in the digital art world. My online portfolio wasn't just popular, it was profitable. Companies were already commissioning work, and I had a standing offer from a game development studio. What my family didn't know, what they'd never bothered to learn, was that the cartoons they dismissed were opening doors they couldn't control. The first year was hard, just as they predicted. I lived in a tiny apartment, took every commission I could get, and worked until my hands cramped around my stylus. But unlike the medical path they'd chosen for me, every hour of work felt like freedom. My breakthrough came faster than anyone expected. A mobile game company hired me to design characters for their new gacha game, Eternal Legends. The game went viral and my character designs became internet sensations. Fan art flooded social media, merchandise sold out instantly, and my name, my real name, not my family's, began appearing in industry publications. But success, I discovered, was the best revenge. 2 years after being disowned, I was earning more than a starting doctor's salary. 3 years in, my art was featured in a digital exhibition that toured international galleries, including several my father had connections with. 4 years in, I bought my own house, a modern apartment in a better neighborhood than my parents' traditional home. I kept tabs on my family through Aunt Kiko, who delighted in passing along news of their slowly unraveling perfect world. May, it turned out, was struggling in her residency, the pressure of being the family's last hope proving too much. She developed a gambling habit, losing thousands on mobile games, including, ironically, the very games I designed characters for. My father's medical center, once the crown jewel of Tokyo's private healthcare system, was facing multiple malpractice suits. His perfectionism, once considered a mark of excellence, had devolved into arrogance that patients no longer tolerated. And now, 5 years later, here he was trying to reassert control the only way he knew how, with money and shame. I set my tablet down on his desk, next to the check he'd written. Let me be clear, Father. I don't owe you anything. The cost of raising a child isn't a debt to be repaid. It's a responsibility you chose to take on. But since you're so interested in numbers, I pulled up my portfolio's financial overview. This is what I earned last year. Notice it's more than your check. This, I swiped to another screen, is my current net worth. And this, one final swipe, is the list of gaming companies I work with, including the ones Mai has lost millions on. His face, already pale, went almost white. You designed those games. The characters, yes. Interesting how Mai always seems to spend the most money on the characters I design. Something about them just draws her in. I smiled. Maybe it's because I know exactly what buttons to push in this family. You're blackmailing us? His voice rose slightly, the first crack in his perfect control. No, Father. I'm showing you that the daughter you threw away for choosing art over medicine now has more influence in modern Japan than your traditional medical center ever will. Your patients trust online reviews more than medical degrees. May's generation spends more money on games than healthcare. The world has changed, but you were too busy protecting your legacy to notice. I stood smoothing down my designer dress, one that cost more than his suit. Keep your check. Consider it a gift from a stranger, since that's what you decided I should be. Oh, and father, the next time you try to bully someone with money, make sure they don't have more of it than you do. As I walked out of his office, I heard him calling after me, his voice holding a note I'd never heard before. Desperation. But I didn't turn back. I had a meeting with my development team about our next game launch. The following weeks brought a parade of attempts at reconciliation. My mother sent tearful messages through Aunt Kiko. May, facing mounting gambling debts, tried to friend me on social media. My father's secretary called repeatedly, each time offering a larger sum to make things right. I ignored them all. Instead, I focused on my work, creating new characters that would capture players' imaginations and their wallets. Each success was a quiet victory, each award a silent rebuke to the family that had dismissed my dreams as worthless. 6 months after my confrontation with my father, I received an invitation to give a keynote speech at the Tokyo Digital Arts Festival. The venue? The same prestigious hall where my father had once given speeches about medical excellence. The irony wasn't lost on me. The day of the speech, I stood at the podium, looking out over a sea of young faces, artists, gamers, dreamers who saw the future in pixels and possibilities. In the back row, I spotted Aunt Kiko, and beside her, my parents and May. They hadn't been invited, but then they'd never needed an invitation to witness my life. Success, I began, isn't about following predetermined paths. It's about having the courage to create your own. 5 years ago, I was told that choosing art over medicine was a failure. Today, I design characters that bring joy to millions, create worlds that inspire creativity, and yes, earn more than many doctors. The audience laughed. In the back row, my father's face remained stoic, but I saw him flinch. But the real success isn't in the money or the recognition. It's in the freedom to be authentically yourself, to create without boundaries, to define your own worth. After the speech, they approached me. Mai spoke first, her designer clothes looking slightly worn now, her confidence dimmed by debt and disappointment. Yuki, hi, I didn't know. About the games, about your success. You never asked. My mother stepped forward, tears in her eyes. We were wrong. Can't we be a family again? I looked at them, really looked at them. My father, his hospitals facing bankruptcy. May, destroyed by the very games I helped create. My mother, still trying to maintain the facade of family harmony. No, I said simply. We can't. You didn't want me as family when I was struggling. I don't need you as family now that I'm successful. But we're blood, my father protested. Blood doesn't excuse cruelty. Blood doesn't erase 5 years of silence. Blood doesn't give you the right to my success after rejecting me for my dreams. I turned to leave, then paused. But since you believe in debts being repaid here, I handed my father a check. This covers what you spent raising me with interest. Now we're even. Please don't contact me again. The check was for exactly 100 million yen, the amount he tried to shame me with months ago. But now was coming from my account, on my terms, severing the last financial tie they could claim. As I walked away, Aunt Kiko fell into step beside me. Was that necessary? She asked gently. Yes, I replied. They needed to understand that I'm not the failure they created. I'm the success I created myself. Today, 3 years after that speech, my digital art studio is one of the most successful in Asia. My characters appear in games, anime, and merchandise worldwide. The family name Nakamura is now more associated with digital art than medicine. I still get messages sometimes from my mother on holidays, from May when she's particularly desperate, from my father when his pride cracks under the weight of his failing hospitals. I don't respond. Instead, I create. I draw worlds where dreams matter more than traditions, where courage is rewarded, where authenticity triumphs over expectations. And sometimes, when I'm designing a particularly challenging character, I think about the family that thought art was beneath them. They taught me the most valuable lesson of all. True art isn't just about creating beauty. It's about having the courage to show the world who you really are, even when the people who should love you the most try to make you into someone else. My latest game features a character who breaks free from a restrictive family to follow her dreams. Players love her determination, her strength, her refusal to be bounded by others' expectations. They don't know she's based on a true story. But I do, and every time someone praises her design, every time May loses more money trying to advance in the game, every time my father sees my name in the business news instead of his, I smile. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about becoming so successful that their attempts to destroy you become nothing more than a footnote in your story of triumph.